Books. Whether we're transported to some far-off cosmic realm or under the sea to Relay or somewhere like that, or even better, to a tiny forest, right? See, here's the deal. My brother's a little bit older than me, and growing up together, I idolized everything he did pretty much, and so he would read quite a lot, and the books he was interested in are things I became interested in, even if I never read them. There was a series when he was reading a lot of things. It was called Redwall by Bryan. This was about a fantastic kingdom in which mice had swords made out of needles and things like that, and they had wonderful food, and they ate, and they fought, and they had chivalry and all that sort of stuff. It was a fantastic world that no movie has ever touched, no TV show has ever touched, maybe some comic books and things like that have touched, but finally, we get into the world of board games. No, Root is not Redwall, it's not Mouseflower, or whatever it was called, Mossflower. This is Root. This is a game, though, in which woodland creatures have swords, knives, bows and arrows, and really great art. This is the area control version of Redwall. Again, not licensed. We'll talk about that. It doesn't really matter if it's licensed or not. I can't even tell you if that's exactly what this is inspired off of or not. All I know is this art is pretty neat. Let's dive in and take a look at how Root plays right now, see if it's worth your time, and have some fun. So here's what comes with Root. Let's tidy this up just a bit. So this is kind of what the board setup starts in a 4-player game. Notice there are only 3 colors represented on the board. It's because the Mouseland group doesn't start with anybody on the board, the Woodland Alliance. There are cats all over the place as they overrun things. There are proud birds down here in the bottom right corner as they try to spread their influence all over the board. This is the lonely vagabond here as he tries to just make friends and enemies with as many and as few people as he can in order to gain points while he's out there questing. You would also start with this bag of starting items up there at the top of the board right over there, but since it's going to be most out of frame, doesn't really matter that much. You start with a sawmill here. It depends. You can actually use a little bit of variable player setup, but the basic game tells you to put the sawmill up there and always put the cats and the birds in opposite corners. You can have a workshop here and a recruiter here. These are different things that are available on the cats board. We'll go through everyone's board and kind of show you how everyone plays here in just a second, but just wanted to give you a basic setup. A couple of important concepts. Ruling an area. So if you rule an area, you have more figures in that area than someone else does. So currently the birds rule this area, the cats rule all of these areas. Notice the raccoon is in the woods. He can either be in the woods or in clearings. He can slip at the beginning of his turn, which means he can move adjacent to another area of woods, or he can get out to a clearing. Just interesting to note. The Woodland Alliance works basically the same way. They move, except for, they don't work the same as him. They work the same as the cats and the birds. Ruling is important because you can only move, this would be mostly for the birds and cats, you can only move into an area or out of an area that you rule. So birds have a special rule where they rule places when there's a tie. So this cat could not move here because he does not rule here and does not rule here. Therefore, he cannot move from a place he rules or to a place he rules. Therefore, he is shut down from moving there. When you fight, you initiate a battle. You roll 2 dice. The higher number goes to the attacker. The lower number goes to the defender. This many of the attackers are defeated. This many of the defenders are defeated. That happens, and you score a victory point per piece pulled off the board. That could be also the roosts of the birds, or it could also be the buildings and the wood or the support tokens and things from the Green Woodland Alliance characters. That is basically how everything works on the board, but the board is only a portion of where the game takes place, as everyone has their own unique player board. One other thing I want to talk about though is crafting, because it's different for how everyone does it. Crafting is when you spend the cost down here of whatever your card is that you're trying to craft. So this would give you the root tea item. You would gain 2 victory points and then discard it. But you would also craft the root tea, which would go in your crafted items area, in which the vagabond could trade you for later. Don't worry about what that means. It's just an important concept that for the vagabond. But if you wanted to craft this, you would need to control with whatever type of thing you craft with this area. So this would be 1 mouse area. Now some of them are more. Some of them are things like this where it's 1 of each. So a mouse, a fox, and a rabbit area. That's what crafting is all about. Let's take a look though at the meat of the game, at where everyone's player board is, so we can discuss how everyone plays so vastly different. Marquita Cat here. First of all, this is the most straightforward character in the game. Gives you some hints up here about the character's special operations that they have, special things that they have. This is where their crafted items go. Again, when a crafted item is made, it's not actually something you really keep. It's just there so that the vagabond can take it from you. Birdsong is the first part of their turn. Everybody's the same: birdsong, daylight, evening, but these shift as far as what they do. This is why they're the most straightforward. All these tokens that they have over here, the recruiters, the woodcutters, and the recruiters, the workshops, and the sawmills, will cover up all of these spaces, except the first three, obviously. Then, each time you build one of these buildings, you gain the victory points under it. A total of 10, 14, 18, 22, 25, so plenty of points to win, because you win by getting 30 points. There's tons and tons of points out here from just doing this. If you wanted to, you can also win by fighting. Now, they cost wood to build. So in the birdsong phase, the cats are going to place a wood at each sawmill. So you would place a wood token out there at a sawmill. For instance, you have a sawmill up here, you put it there. You would then, much like the game side, spend it off the board from anywhere. So if you had wood here, here, and here, but you wanted to build this building, you could spend all three of these wood to build that building, therefore giving you the victory points under it, 3 points. That is the very main difference that the Marquita Cat makes. Just so you know, here are the actions you can do. So first, in the daylight phase, they can craft by using all of their workshop spaces. So in order to build this card here, in order to craft this card, you would need to have workshops, which are these buildings, in 2 fox clearings. So if you had a workshop here and here, you could then craft that item. That's what that means. Then you take up to 3 of these actions listed below. Battle we talked about, march we talked about. You can move 2 cats, either 1 cat twice or 2 cats total. You can recruit, that's where you place a warrior out at each recruiter space that you have, so that would be this here. You could build, so that would be what you have here, and then you would put the building out there. Overwork means you spend a card to place 1 wood at a sawmill in a matching clearing. So again, birds could be free there. So it's just a way to get wood out there faster. You can do any combination of these up to 3 times total. Evening is you draw a card plus 1 card showing for any of these that you've uncovered. That's the Marquita Cats. Let's move on to the next simplest one. This would be the Airy Dynasties. Big fan of the Airy Dynasties because I like the way this works here. Notice their board looks totally different, right? Information about each one, crafted goods. They only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 roosts in which you get points, but theirs are different. You notice you score victory points at the end of each round for the farthest right roost you have open. So let's say all these are covered, well then you'll score a victory point at the end of the round. Now if you get all your roosts out there, you're scoring 5 points at the end of the round. However, they're very proud, so they have to follow their decree, and this is what's really cool. So first of all, if your hand is empty, you draw a card. Secondly, you add a card to the top of your decree. What that means is, up here, you will have a tableau built, and I'll just scoot this stuff out of the way of the board because we're kind of done with that area anyway. You will have a tableau built of cards up here at the top of your board. Now, first of all, you're going to start with 2 of your loyal viziers. I believe that's what they call them. So Jafar, basically. You're going to have your 2 loyal viziers. Here we go. Up here, and you're going to have one of these 4 ruler cards. Now, let's say you start with the despot. First of all, they give you different powers. So the despot is if you remove at least 1 enemy building in token, you gain an extra point. Now, what happens is it tells you where to put it. So you would put your viziers in move and build. So you would stick this under move and you would stick this under build. Now, with your decree set, you'll then have to place 1 more card. So let's just say in my hand of cards, which we will have, obviously, I have these 3 cards. Now I have to place 1 of these cards. I can place 2. Only one of them can be birds. Now, I'm going to place mice just to show you what this means. So this is now my decree. So if you have no roost, place a roost and 3 warriors in the clearing with a few fewest total pieces. That means if you get wiped out, you get to do that. First, you craft using your roosts. So you would need to craft using roosts in the areas that you have needed of on the cards themselves. Then you resolve the decree in order. So you will recruit. First of all, you will recruit in a mouse clearing. You have no mouse clearings right now. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. Let's just pretend you did. So if you had a mouse clearing under rule here, for instance, this one right here, you would then add another bird out to your clearing. Then You move, same rules apply. Then you would battle, then you build. You'd build a roost. It's just free. You just put it in a matching clearing that you rule. Here's the problem. If you ever fail to do the decree, so if one of these things won't work, if you can't recruit in a clearing because you don't have a roost in a clearing of that type, if you can't move because you're basically boxed in, if there's no one to fight, or if you can't build because you're not in a location that you can that you have the matching clearing card for, then you go into turmoil. So you get humiliated. First of all, you lose a point per bird card, including the vizier. So it's guaranteed -2 points on your decree. You purge the decree, so you get rid of everything except the viziers. You then depose your leader, flip him face down, pick a new one of the leaders, put it here, and then readjust your viziers based on what that new leader says. Then you start over. So these are a little bit trickier to play because they're a programming style play, but I really like the idea that there is such a vastly different version of play between the two most basic types of characters, which would be the birds and the cats. Let's talk Woodland Alliance. So the Woodland Alliance starts with their support tokens covering, or the sympathy tokens covering these areas. Obviously, the more sympathy tokens you reveal, the more points you get in the game. The way their bird song, daylight, and evening works is a little bit different. So at the beginning of bird song, you can spend spend two supporters. The way this works is you're going to have a stack of support cards. Now these are not your hand, these are just cards that get put here by enemies or by other different things in the game. So you will spend, let's just say you wanted to revolt here in this clearing. You need to spend 2 fox clearing cards. You remove all enemy pieces there, place matching base and warriors there equal to the total number of matching sympathetic clearings. So if you have no sympathetic clearings, obviously you couldn't place any, but you then place a warrior in the officer's box. So the officer's box is here. So you'll take one of your warriors and put it here. The officers determine how many of these normal type of actions you can take. So the first couple rounds, you might not be taking any of these types of actions. You might just be gathering support, getting people to join your side in support, which is so thematic and cool, right? Second, you can spread sympathy. Spend a number of supporters listed on the sympathy track to place a sympathy adjacent to a sympathetic clearing if possible. The first one does not have to be. Supporters must match the target clearing. So obviously you will spend support cards based on the cost here. The first 3 are 1 support card of the matching clearing. You put that out there, that's how you start scoring points. Well, that is how you start getting the ability to revolt in the next couple rounds. Anyway, then you can craft based on where your sympathy tokens are. You mobilize, means you add a card from your hand to the sympathizer, to the supporter deck. So if you put a card from your own hand down here. Third is you can train. You can do all of these as many times as you want. It means spin a card from your hand matching a built base to place a warrior in the office box. These bases come out, like you said, when you revolt. So once the bases are all out there, that's what these look like, by the way, these little bitty bases here. You then can start getting more and more officers out here to do these actions, which would be move, recruit, battle, and organize. So it's a different style of play in the sense that you're trying to get your support out there slowly and surely, and then finally you can start wrecking the other teams. Now here's the cool part. Placement limits. Each clearing may only have a sympathy token, but you must spend another matching supporter in the target clearing that has a warrior. I'm sorry, anyway, that's a rule for everybody, though. The martial law thing, I believe. No, it's not. Sorry, but it's down there. It says you must spend another matching supporter if the target clearing has at least 3 warriors of another player. Just so you know. But here's the cool thing. Outrage says when a player removes a sympathy token or moves any warrior into a sympathetic clearing, that player must add a matching card from their hand to their supporters, this stack. If they can't, they shove their hand to the Woodland Alliance player, and then the Woodland Alliance player draws a card and adds it to the supporters. Guerrilla warfare is the other thing. I wanted to bring this up because they switch the dice. If they're on the defense, they take the higher number, not the lower number, which means that the person who attacked them has a 0 and they get a 3. Last but not least is everyone's favorite Vagabond. He is a single player on the board. He does not have multiple meeples. He is the only one of his kind out on the board. And he plays based on the tokens. All of the items that you've been crafting that he takes from you using the aid action, which doesn't hurt you, it helps you, and all the other tokens that he starts with are how he acts. What that means is, on your turn, you'll start with a few of these based on the card that you pick, because there are a few different types of Vagabond. You could be, for instance, a Tinker. The Tinker, when he spins a torch, he can take a card from the discard pile matching your clearing. Starts with these items. You could be a Ranger. You repair 3 items and then immediately in daylight. Start with those items, and then the thief. Take a random card from a player in your clearing. When you give aid, it means you give cards to another faction to get their items that they've crafted. Now, obviously, that's how you get more and more items, but you can also explore these ruins on the board to get more items. But when you give them, you increase your relationship with them. So you would have to give the amount of cards based on how much it is to increase your relationship. You gain the points at the top. Once you become an ally, though, every time you give cards, you gain 2 victory points. So it's a quick way to get victory points. However, once you're allied, you can use that allied faction's workers as your own. So if you wanted to fight with birds, you could. Or if you wanted to fight with mice, you could. Or cats, you could, for that matter. However, if you ever attack or kill a different character, you move to hostile. And each time you kill that character, again, you gain an extra victory point. So being hostile is not a bad thing. It just means you don't get the victory points for helping aid them. And there's no way to get out of hostile. Notice that. So that's Root. Root is a fantastic game. The hype is real. Here's the thing. When you hear about a game at Gen Con, you think, oh, wow, well, you know, I never know about the hype, right? Because it might just be people talking about it at Gen Con, which creates its own buzz, and therefore the BGG Hot Top 100 goes up, and people go, well, that must be a great game because people are talking about it. Although, it could be the con buzz. That could have been Root. Root could have been that game, but it's not. Root is fantastic. Every bit of Root is good, top to bottom. Let's start art. Art is great. Look at this art, right? It reminds me of kind of like that Usagi Yojimbo comic mixed with Calvin and Hobbes, because the board art reminds me of Calvin and Hobbes, Bill Watterson style art. It's fantastically done. I absolutely love the art in Root. Let's talk mechanics. First of all, pick any one of these characters. Pick any one of these types of characters. All 4 of them would be fun if all 4 players were playing the same way. Now, obviously, you'd have to tweak a few things. But that's what Root does so well. All 4 of these different factions play so different. And as I showed you, totally different feel, to where you don't even feel like you get the same experience, not good or bad, not unbalanced, but you get a totally different experience every time you play Root as a different faction. Now, there are 2 more factions coming, the Lizard Cultist and the River Folk. So that's going to be awesome. Add even more variety to the bunch. Also driving the game up to 6 players. Not sure how that's going to play, if there's going to be a map extension or not, but all I know is the more Root, the better. That's how I feel about it. That's mechanics, that's art. Let's just talk about total package. All of it's put together nice. My only ding is just some of the chits and things like that. You know, I would have rather seen, obviously, resources made out of wood or resin, obviously, and the game designers may have too, but you never know how all that goes in Kickstarter or whatever's behind it. All I know is that some of the things felt a little bit like just a little too much cardboard for me. Now, the actual miniature pieces, the meeples themselves of each different faction, are really cool because they all have those eyes. Like the cats are giving you these evil eyes, the mice are looking for support, the birds are very proud, and the raccoons are just doing what he does, being a vagabond, you know, just hanging out. But that is a fantastic game right there, Root. You need to go out and get this. It's area control. It will make people angry who don't like to get angry in games as far as like area control goes. Oh, I was going to take that spot. You took this spot from me. How could you do this? I was going to win, which is exactly what happened to me. I had a dominance card which was going to win. That was a dominance card I picked up, so everyone knew I had that dominance card, which is obviously the reason why they know this. But next turn I was going to win. Well, Aaron comes in, takes my 1 rabbit clearing away from me. So the point is, at the beginning of birdsawing, I did not have 3 rabbit clearings, and therefore I lost that chance to win the game like that, and ended up coming in last place. But the game, here's what I liked about it. At all points, the game feels like someone else is going to blow you away, and then at the very end, it tightens up. Cats come out of the gate strong. They're scoring points fast. Birds are kind of slow and steady. The mice get started really slow. Then once they get rolling, boom, 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 they're throwing tons of points out there. And the vagabond is just another consistent player where he can get a lot of points pretty quick, depending on what other players do, depending on who he allies with, and all sorts of things as that. So go get Root. You will enjoy it. You will love it. There's more coming for Root, and I'm excited and cannot wait to see it. So I'm Brian Drake here on The Latest Retro. Till next time, go read a book and play some games. We'll see you. Oh, follow me on Twitter at The Latest Retro. Don't forget that.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool Stuff. in stock. Check them out at coolstuffinc.com.